Well, this is the presentation for biology, chemistry, and pre-health. My name is Dr. Mike Martin. I'm a professor of biology and also the chair of the department. We have with us a chemistry professor, Mark Weiner. He's also an alum of John Carroll. And then Dr. Kathy Lee as well, who's the head of the pre-health programs here at John Carroll. So we'll each take a little bit of time to tell you about our programs. We have some students as well. They'll be here to talk about their experiences at John Carroll, and then feel free to ask them questions and ask us questions. Throughout the course of our time, we'll make sure to save a little time at the end for that as well. And so, first I'll talk a little bit about the integrated core curriculum that all of you will experience if you come to John Carroll in the fall. It's a little bit smaller than our old core. So if you have older siblings or any of you went here to John Carroll, the new core is a little bit smaller than the old core. Well, like 40 to 50 hours depending on your foreign language placement. It's going to be developing some skills early in your time here, things like writing, oral communication, quantitative analysis. We're going to build on those skills both in some core classes as well as once you dive into some depth into your major. You're going to see knowledge coming together in different ways. We're going to have courses that are going to be taught by two faculty, two individual classes, maybe looking at a single topic through two different lenses. The world is very complex. We can't just try to solve problems by examining it through the eyes of biology or biochemistry or chemistry. We have to think a little bit more broadly than that. And so we help students to see problems and solutions through different lenses. So I mentioned the foundational competencies, things like English, communications, quantitative analysis. Everybody will take a foreign language unless they test out of it. So if you've had a few years of Spanish or French or something, you can test out of your foreign language requirement here at John Carroll. If not, you might be taking up to a year of foreign language. Those integrated classes come in a few different flavors, whether they're engaging the global community or for the sciences, the exploring the natural world. We have courses this year, including things like forensic chemistry, a course that's linked to a detective fiction course with an English professor. Dr. Weiner's developed a course as well in the Exploring the Natural World, so he'll talk about that.
Yeah, so the course that I'm doing is linked with somebody from the physics department, and it's a course in physical science specifically designed for early childhood and middle childhood education students. So it's got pedagogy built into it as well as the physics and chemistry. So these linked courses sort of bridge a whole range of really interesting possibilities.
We also have the Jesuit Heritage, and so what this means is a couple of courses in philosophy, a couple courses in theology and religious studies, as well as at least one course that deals with an issue in social justice. And so this has always been a foundation of the Jesuit education model, and we continue that in our time in the new core. So I'm going to talk specifically about biology. We have 3 different majors in biology. The general biology major is our biggest major. About 60 students will graduate each year with a biology major. And then our 2 more specialized majors, including the cell molecular biology, has about 10 students who graduate each year. And then an environmental science major. We have anywhere from 3 to 5, sometimes as many as 8 environmental science students graduating in a single year. So students can choose a more broad path, and they can choose a more specialized path within our department. Either way, they'll get started in the same classes and develop their interest, and then go ahead and drill down into some topics in either one of these 2 majors if they choose. Our students also tend to complete a couple of different minors or concentrations when they do that work. We see them a lot in the neuroscience concentration. Neuroscience is the faculty who lead that program are actually at a conference right now where they end up winning prizes, or the students win the prizes, for posters and talks and papers. And they've done this and they've won prizes for something like 25 out of the last 26 years. So it's a very good and strong program for us. We also see students in the population public health minor. A really good one that students who are interested in pre-health tend to gravitate to as well. We have some unique classes that we offer in the department. Of course, we offer everything like your intro biology and genetics and human A&P and those types of things. Everything that you'll need to go on to some professional program or to really be able to foster your interest in some biology coursework. But we have some other unique classes as well that I just want to mention. We have Poverty and Disease. This is a course taught by Dr. Lissamore. You might encounter him later if you go to the population public health table. And so this is a course that I know is not being taught other places, and the reason I know this is there's no textbook. If you can't find a textbook, it's not being taught other places. Right, so he looks at the disparity of diseases and disorders among populations, right, both locally, also at the national and international level. You can imagine things like lead poisoning, thinking about water and Flint. You can imagine that happening in Cleveland as well. If you're from Cleveland, you know that we have a serious problem with that as well in our city. But also thinking about things like HIV and AIDS, both here in the US and internationally. We have a class in epidemiology. This is taught by Dr. Johnson. You might encounter her later in the microbiology lab. She was a postdoc at Harvard School of Public Health before coming here to John Carroll. And so this epidemiology course is quite nice. Students enjoy it. And fits quite nicely when you think about things like population and public health. We also have global climate change, a tremendous commitment in our department to the environment. And so we've been studying that and teaching students about that for a number of years. Also a highly specialized course here at the end of the time. If they're a cell molecular biology student, something like molecular methods lab, there we'll have 6 or 8 students with just 2 faculty members. And so that really destroys our student-faculty ratio. If you see the dean later, don't tell her about it. Right? We've got a couple, we've had students here that have taken that class, might mention a little something about it, but it's a unique experience, right? You know that you're going to get some good training when you get down to those types of situations. This is trying to skip on. Oh. Okay. Great, you can do some work here, but you can also go other places. We don't like, of course, we're biologists. We don't want to stay inside all the time. We want to go outside and see things and do things. So we have some course offerings, some trips like going to Honduras. This is a program that happens at the end of the academic year after finals. Students go on this immersion trip where they deliver medicine, so medical brigades, to the rural poor in Honduras. Been doing this for upwards of a decade. Students love it. It's a transformative experience. They love it so much they want to come back and do it after they've graduated. We also take students to the moon. And so, this is the Atacama Desert. It's the driest desert in the world in Chile. We have taken students down there to collect samples of bacteria, come back, analyze them, and see where they fit in the evolutionary tree. We also have a trip that goes to Costa Rica, tropical field biology. Students will study that during the course of the spring semester, and then they'll spend spring break doing a field work in Costa Rica. And that's led by one of our scientists who's been working in that area for decades. He also studies poison dart frogs, and so this is one of his papers from the cover of the Journal of Ecology. So we want you to
happens
get...
to be sitting in the back of the room over there too.
Raise your hand, Dr. Saporito.
Thank you. Sorry.
You'll see Ralph later. He'll be in the Human Anatomy and Physiology lab as well. There's also opportunities that you can take advantage of during the academic year. We love to do research, so doing research with John Carroll faculty is an important thing. You get involved early on. You don't have to wait until you're a senior. We love having students work with us when they're young. They can develop some real skills over time. This can happen during the academic year, but also during the summertime. Summertime opportunities are typically paid research experiences. But we also have partnerships with the Cleveland Clinic in a summer research program there. And so about 10 students each summer will go down to the Cleveland Clinic. They also will access the alternate list quite a bit, and so it's really closer to 15 each summer that go down there and get paid to do research, so lab research at the clinic. It's a tremendous program. We're the only school in the country that has a dedicated research program with the Cleveland Clinic. One of our alums works there in the cardiology program, so she sets this up with for us. And she's told us that other schools call. Schools like Yale will call and say, "Can we have a summer undergraduate program with you?" And she says, "No thanks. Our faculty enjoy the John Carroll students because they know what they're getting. Right? They know that when they show up down there, they're going to be both intellectually engaged, but also have the hand skills to do research when they hit the door." We also have internships in environmental science. So we have a new environmental scientist who's here as well. So Dr. Watling in the back. He's the professor of environmental science, and so you might be able to work with him in your time here. Also health internships, also coordinated in part with Dr. Lee, exist. Many research programs are going to exist off campus, things like working at the Natural History Museum or Metro Health, also the Holden Arboretum, Botanical Gardens. We're sending our students out to do National Science Foundation internships, research for undergraduates. We have Vin Trin down here. Vin, he's going to work in the World Food Program this summer as well, so some nice internships and experiences that our students are capturing. I love this slide. This is a slide that represents the productivity of the department when we think of publications, the currency in science. You'll see here in green the faculty publications over time, here in the past couple years, hitting close to 30. We're in April, and we're really close to some of the lowest years that we see here. So this is a very productive department for research. But honestly, that wouldn't mean a whole lot to you if you didn't look at the blue bar. These are your kids, maybe. These are undergraduates that are publishing papers with us. So we work with students. We do original publishable research. Right? We're discovering new things. We're seeing things that have never been seen before. And so these students are getting tremendous experience. And what they do is if you go ahead and you publish a paper, by the time you leave, it's like the golden ticket. You're going to get tremendous access to a number of professional schools you might be interested in, because it doesn't happen a lot. This kind of productivity probably puts us in a rather exclusive company in the country. You know, I used to be a little bit shy about saying this, but I think it's honestly true. Schools like us, this size, that have a master's program, this research productivity probably puts us in the top 1 or 2% in the country. Okay? There's a lot going on. Students don't get engaged. They should, right? Students have a lot of opportunities for research and otherwise in our department. So simply a list of the faculty and a little blurb about what they're interested in for research. The ones that you see highlighted and underlined, you can see them later today, either at the tables outside, or we also have a table set up upstairs. Come back, do a tour of the lab after lunch. We have human anatomy labs, freshman labs, we have models and samples, and we have a number of undergraduate and graduate students there to speak with you about our program. Some students have tremendous experiences that are happening in the lab, so outside of the classroom, that transform their lives. So I have a question. This one is for the students. Do you know your blood type? Raise your hand. Okay, just the students. A couple of hands. Okay, parents, or raise your hand if you know your blood type. Okay, so much bigger number. So you come to John Carroll. I saw this type of thing when I was teaching genetics when I first got here. I've been here about 15 years now. And so when I asked students what their blood type is, nobody knew. Maybe a quarter of the students knew. And so we developed some protocols I had a political science student who said, I want to do some research. Now he's also pre-med in my genetics class. And so he did some research with me, volunteer work in the summer. And so we developed protocols where we'd take a little swab from your cheek, we'd go ahead and isolate the DNA and analyze it in a couple different ways to figure out your blood type. Right? If you prick your finger in your high school biology class now to check your blood type, like your parents did and I did as well, you come back on Monday and there's a new biology teacher. Right? Bloodborne pathogens weren't exactly as much of a concern back then in the 70s and 80s and so on. Right? So you can do this research. He published it. He went to higher universities, medical schools, come back. He's an anesthesiologist. We stay in touch. We see each other each year, typically for the greatest day of the year, the Browns draft. It's our Super Bowl. And so we always stay in touch, and that's what it's like here. It's that we have what I consider to be a family. And so the students have a great relationship with the faculty and spend a tremendous amount of time. And honestly, when I come in on a Saturday, I'd see half my faculty here anyway. I see the students here. I mean, students are doing things, we're interacting in a number of ways throughout the week and throughout the year. So, real quick, when you leave John Carroll, where might you end up? So places you'll end up include graduate programs at Wisconsin and Duke, right? Cal Berkeley, places like this. I say Wisconsin because I went there. Right? You can also go to medical school, dental school, places like Michigan State, where Mark went, right? a number of schools, all of them in Ohio, and then other types of places. Research trips, including trips to the Appalachian for amphibia, out west to study reptiles, to desert biology, maybe even a free trip to Hawaii. Please note the free trip to Hawaii may not ever happen. So, free trip to Hawaii, students go, do research, collect samples. Same guy who goes to the Atacama Desert goes to Hawaii. So at times students have gone on that trip to collect bacterial samples from Hawaii. So, Dr. Wayne.
All right. So, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things we do in chemistry. Some of the things overlap very nicely with what Dr. Martin just talked about. So, for example, a lot of our chemistry students might also pair with neuroscience or with the population and public health program. Okay? So, we have three basic tracks of study, and I'm going to lead with the first one because it's our biggest track. Okay, biochemistry is probably our biggest track. It also has the most diversity in terms of places our students go when they finish the program. So one of the things that attracts people into the biochemistry program is all the requirements for pre-health, for pre-medical are included in the major itself. Okay? So certainly a lot of people interested in medicine, pharmacy, the various allied health professions that Dr. Lee will talk about. That's one of the paths that's very attractive to them. Okay? It's also been very useful to many of our students who want to go on and study biochemistry or molecular biology at the graduate level, going directly into a PhD program. And we have a number of students that go the other way and say, I really want to work in chemical industry in some way. And so places like Sherwin-Williams, there's also a fairly large biotech community around here. Some of our students have gone on to work in intellectual property, for example, which patent law is one area of that. All right, let's see if we can get this to move. We'll turn off. There we go. We get skipped. All right. The second track, our comprehensive track. This one is our American Chemical Society certified track. This is really the program for folks that really like more math and physics courses as well as the chemistry. Okay, so it's sort of the opposite of the biochemistry track in some respects. But it's geared for those people that really want to become a professional chemist or want to go on to graduate school in chemistry. Or the other place is that if your interest lies in chemical engineering. So if you want to leave here and be able to go to a chemical engineering program, get a master's in chemical engineering, for example, this is the path that those students would take. Okay? We also have some students from this path who are very successful and go on to various professional programs like medicine as well. We've also had some go directly into law school to do patent law, for example. It likes to skip. There we go. Okay, so the third path is our general path. And general makes it sound kind of a little bit generic in some sense, but it's one of the paths that really offers a lot more flexibility. And so I've listed some examples of things that people do with this path. The idea is you want to be able to get that technical background in chemistry, but you want to do something different with it, different than traditional chemistry. So for example, we've had students interested in forensic science who want to go on to a master's in forensic science program. So they'll take the general path, get the basic chemistry skills they need, and they'll pair it with the criminology sequence in sociology, so that they have some background in law and legality as well. Then we've also had students that want to go on and become teachers. This is something I'm very interested in. Part of my research interests and my general service interests lie in K-12 science education. So folks that are interested in becoming teachers, you also need to effectively get a second major in education. And so students in that track would take this general path. Another one is for students that are interested in sciences but want to apply it in a different way. Maybe you want to work in industry but not as a lab scientist. Maybe you want to work in technical sales. Maybe you want to work as a pharmaceutical salesperson, for example. I have a student right now who transferred in here from Ohio State, and she's doing that track with general and pairing it with a minor in business. And her path is she wants to go work for chemical industry, but more in the management side of things. So she's doing an internship at Lubrizol in the procurement area this summer. we go. So a few of our strengths that we like to point out. One is that you get that hands-on experience with real high-tech laboratory equipment. And this is something that if you get a chance later, if you want to take one of the specialized tours on the second floor and third floor here, you'll see the biology, chemistry departments. And one of the things we're really proud of is the kind of instrumentation we have. We have over $2 million in instrumentation. Much of that is through endowed funds, which means that when that technology is then outdated, we can repair it and we can replace it, so that you're always learning how to use new equipment. Sometimes we've had folks come in to install some of this equipment and look at us a little bit strange, thinking, you're not going to have your undergraduates use this, are you? And we say, well, of course, that's the whole point. And part of it is because they're used to installing this kind of equipment at a place like Case or Ohio State, where the person who's going to use that equipment is a PhD student. Even if it's for an undergraduate class, that undergraduate would hand their sample to the teaching assistant, who'd be a grad student, and they would run it. Well, that's not how it works here. Here, we want you to do it yourselves, much like Dr. Martin talked about getting in the lab and doing hands-on research. That's important to us in the chemistry department as well. But even if you're not doing research, we still want you hands-on working with the real equipment that you'll see out in the world. Okay? We have lots of opportunities for research and internships, much like biology mentioned. Some of those folks that go to the Cleveland Clinic each summer, some are from psychology, some are from biology, and the others are from chemistry. So folks from all three of those areas go down to the clinic each summer. Lots of other local chemical industry. I mentioned Lubrizol as one. Sherwin-Williams gets a lot of our students to do internships for them as well. The other thing as a chemistry major that you get an opportunity for, we don't have a graduate program in chemistry, but we still teach lots of labs. So the people that we need as faculty to help us in the labs and teaching those labs, those teaching assistants, we don't have grad students for that. So that's an opportunity that undergraduates get here at John Carroll to be a teaching laboratory assistant. And what that does for you is it does a couple important things. One is you learn from that experience. You get experience that if you are going on to graduate school, you've already learned something about what it's like to be a teaching assistant. And the best thing is you get paid for it. So I always think it's cool when somebody will finally pay you to learn things, which is one of the things that happens if you go to graduate school in the sciences. They will actually pay you to go to graduate school. Once I found that out, I was amazed. I didn't realize that when I came to John Carroll. I didn't realize that happened, but it does. It's pretty cool. Let's see. No? Oh, there we go. So another thing that we're really proud of here at John Carroll, this is specific to chemistry, but it's not really specific to chemistry. Biology does this as well. I mean, the biggest our courses can be, they're limited by class sizes, by classroom sizes. We don't have classes in this auditorium. This auditorium is for great presentations. We bring in outside speakers. Lots of cool stuff happens in here, but not courses. So the largest your organic chemistry or general chemistry class can be is 40 to 45 students, because that's as many people as fit in the room. And again, you're going to have a professor. That's the person who's teaching that class. That's the person you go to for help, not a teaching assistant. Okay? Typically, upper level classes, much smaller, 8 to 25 students. Labs, you'll have maybe 8 to 12 students in upper level labs. We have 9 full-time members in the chemistry department. We have about 25 to 35 graduates a year, which for a school this size is actually a large number of chemistry majors. It has put us in the past in about the top 10 in Ohio for number of chemistry graduates, which is pretty significant. So I'm going to skip quickly through this, but one of the things I would point out is that a number of our students find that biochemistry, along with the molecular biology, the cell and molecular biology path, is attractive to them, and so they'll often double major in those paths. More than 50% of our students in chemistry do an internship or a research experience before they graduate from John Carroll. That's a really important thing, as Dr. Martin mentioned. Getting in there and learning how to do research and doing research is a really important thing. For me, it was important for me to go out into industry and do an internship to learn what that was like, to find out if that was a path I wanted to do. Now, obviously, what I learned from that experience is it wasn't what I wanted to do. But that was fine. And one of the benefits I got from that is I got paid really good money for 3 summers to do some really interesting work and to find out that just wasn't going to be for me in the long term. Okay? So we've already mentioned a couple of these other things on the slide, so we'll skip quickly because we want to leave time for Dr. Lee. There we go. One of the things about chemists is that we have very low unemployment rates, which is always a good thing. There's lots of opportunities, and Ohio is actually a really good place to be for chemists. There's a lot of opportunities for chemists throughout Ohio. Roughly a third of our students go into each of these paths that are mentioned here. Professional programs, about a third of our students go there. About a third go into graduate school, and about a third go into industry. And one of the things people typically think of when they think of chemists is they'll think of a chemical company, like Lubrizol, for example, that's local, or even Sherwin-Williams, right? Paint companies, they're really a chemical company. PPG is another one that's close by. What people don't often think about is they don't think about other kinds of companies. They don't think about law firms that do patent law, for example. They don't think about AI Root, which makes high-end candles here in Ohio. But you know what? It's all chemistry that goes into making those candles, right? You got to have the right dyes, you got to have the right fragrances, and you got to have the right wax and wick combination so that it burns nicely. It's all chemistry. And so it's really cool, some of the places that you wouldn't necessarily think of chemists being. A company that recently got sold off locally was Bonnie Bell, cosmetic company, made lip smacker. They've hired a number of our alums through the years from the chemistry program because, again, it's all chemistry in that industry. Okay. There we go. So, we already mentioned that you don't have to pay to go to graduate school, and those are some of the schools that folks have gone to. Summer research programs, doing research off campus. One of our current students is headed off to Dr. Martin's alma mater. They're going to Wisconsin this summer, which I was really excited about. This is a really good student that really should be going to a top-name PhD program. So I'm really glad to see that he's going to get that research experience this summer. And maybe he'll end up at Wisconsin. Who knows? So, Dr. Lee.
Yes, thank you very much. So I think that Dr. Wayner and Dr. Martin have done a really great job at highlighting some of the unique things that are available to students here at John Carroll. And I'm going to talk about a few more of those and tell you how we put together degrees in chemistry and biology and other things, along with some additional experiences to produce really strong applicants for things like medical school, dental school, things like that. So how many students here, just by a show of hands, are thinking about medical school as a career possibility? Lots of you. How about dental school? Any future dentists out there? That's right, you'd be proud. Dentists, we need lots of dentists. We drink a lot of sodas and coffees and things that are wearing away our enamel, so you are going to be busy for the rest of your life. What about other types of allied health professions? Anybody thinking about like physical therapy? Maybe, possibly, physician assistant, another big one. See, I see a lot of hands going up for physician assistant now. Let me tell you, 6 years ago, most high school students didn't even know what a physician assistant is. So I'm loving this change that I'm seeing in students coming out of high school, really expanding their opportunities and looking at different careers within healthcare. So all of those healthcare programs, all are looking for students that have some things in common. All of them. It doesn't matter if you're thinking about medical school or dental school or PA or PT or pharmacy, whatever. They all want students to have a couple of things in common. First of all, those metrics are always going to be important. What does that mean? Metrics, grades, of course, standardized test scores. So if you want to go to medical school, you have to take the MCAT, the Medical College Admissions Test. If you want to go to dental school, you have to take the DAT. If you want to go to any of those higher ed programs, you need to take a standardized test. So standardized tests, grades, those are those metrics. At one point in time, if you had strong grades and a great standardized test score, you could get into programs. And it's not like that anymore. It's very different now. Those types of programs are looking for other things on their in their applicants to make them a strong, competitive person for that program. And one of the big things is something that Dr. Wayner and Dr. Martin talked about quite a bit. Experiences, okay? You can be a strong student, but what else can you do? What else can you bring into this program? So things like research, internships, things like shadowing. You need to spend time with people in that professional field you're intending to go into to make sure that you really understand what it's like to be a dentist, to be a physician. It's not like house. House is wrong. Don't think that's what life is like. So you need to have those types of experiences in order to really demonstrate that you understand what you're getting into. Then there's this other category that I called other. These are things like, okay, what kind of leadership experiences have you had? Have you been able to manage other people? Have you done any volunteer work in community service? You say that you want to be a physician or a dentist or whatever because you want to help other people, but if you go through your undergraduate career and you don't help a single person, that shows a little bit of a disconnect in what you say and how you live your life. So they want to see those things like volunteer work and community service. Really super important. And that's a great fit for John Carroll because that's part of our mission. Part of our mission is to produce students that are interested in serving others. We have a whole office, it's called the Center for Service and Social Action. They coordinate lots of different types of volunteer work on campus and off campus. I have a lot of students that go to one of the hospitals in the area. We kind of have a lot of them between Cleveland Clinic and University Hospitals and Metro Health and the Free Clinic downtown. They do all sorts of different types of volunteer work. So they're looking for that interest in helping others, and they're also looking for your ability to work with people who are very different from yourself. People who come from different backgrounds, religions, lifestyles, socioeconomic statuses, what have you. They want to see that you're open and willing to serve others who are very different from yourself. So, this is a question I get all the time. What is the best major if I want to go to this program? There isn't really one best major, but the majority of my pre-health students will major in either one of those majors in biology, usually general biology or cell and molecular biology, or they'll pick the biochemistry major. Those are definitely my three most common majors within my pre-health students. But you don't have to be a science major to go on to a professional school like that. I've had English majors go on to medical school, dental school. I have an economics major in medical school right now. So again, a lot of times students will pick a major that really interests them, and then they blend in those prereqs that they need for the program that they want. So pick a major that really interests you. Don't pick a major just because you think it's going to look great on an application. Pick a major that really, really interests you. Students have a tendency to do better in things that they're interested in. Satisfy your prerequisite courses. Every single professional school has their own list of prerequisite courses, and we have to pay attention to those prerequisite courses. And finally, you have to prepare for those standardized tests. So if you want to take the MCAT, you're going to have to take those chemistries, and the biology, and sociology and psychology as well. All right. Other academics, I get this question a lot too. What other kinds of courses should I think about taking? Well, Dr. Martin and Dr. Wayner both listed some of the unique courses that their departments offer. A liberal arts education, I have deans of medical schools and dental schools tell me all the time that they love the liberal arts education because it produces very well-rounded students. We have lots of minors and concentrations that are available to students who are interested in getting some other types of academics in. Things like the neuroscience, population and public health, and then we've also recently developed a minor and certificate program in healthcare preparation. Some of the unique courses that we offer that they love to see, professional schools love to see on student transcripts, things like biomedical ethics, poverty and disease, epidemiology, global health delivery, all of those types of things. I also put on here business. They want to see that you have a little bit of business education because you're getting into a healthcare field, but you have to understand it is a business. You have to understand some of those basic business concepts to realize how you fit into that world. All right, so again, experiences are very important. Volunteer work and community service, I already mentioned, the Center for Service and Social Action. Campus ministry also coordinates a number of volunteer activities, both on campus and off. And then a lot of the student groups here do a number of volunteer and service work. Things like the pre-health club, the pre-medical society, those things, those types of groups also do service and volunteer work. I have a number of students, as I said, that go to hospitals or the free clinic, but then I also have students who help out in nursing homes, hospice, assisted living, things like that. All are going to be great experiences. We also have a very unique opportunity here on campus. John Carroll has its own emergency medical squad that is student-run. So when something happens on campus, it's the student squad that is called first. They have to stabilize the patient, evaluate the patient, make a decision about whether or not University Heights ambulance needs to be called in. Now, in order to serve on that squad, you do have to become EMT certified, but you can do that through taking courses at John Carroll. Then a lot of students will take that EMT certification and work for an ambulance company over the summer. So they're able to make some money and still get some great healthcare experience right here on campus. So kind of a unique opportunity to get healthcare experience without ever having to leave campus. Again, shadowing is going to be extremely important, clinical experiences. Dr. Weiner and Dr. Martin have both talked about the variety of research opportunities, both on campus and off campus, and then leadership experiences. Again, people who are in healthcare are expected to be leaders in their communities, leaders in their workplaces. So join a club, join an organization as a freshman. That way, by the time you're a junior, you're taking on some leadership opportunities. In fact, one of the students we have speaking here today, Hannah, was the president of the Pre-Health Society here on campus. And she'll be going on to medical school in the fall. Okay, so the Pre-Health Professions program is sort of a separate program from the majors that we've already talked about. So you would combine your participation in the Pre-Health Professions program with whatever major it is that you choose. So that provides you with a secondary advisor. So if you're going to be a chemistry major, you'll have a primary advisor in the chemistry department. Once you get on campus, you register with the Pre-Health Professions program. I become your secondary advisor to help you with that pre-health journey. I provide a lot of advice, guidance, and support for students, standardized test information, when do I take that test, how do I prepare for it. We also put our students through an interview preparation program. This is where a student has to fill out an application that really details everything they've done in college so far. They have to write a personal statement about why the program they're selecting is the perfect fit for them. Then I assign them a committee, and they have to go on individual interviews with those committee members. Then they have to interview with the committee as a whole group as well. A little bit of a nerve-wracking experience, but it's really beneficial to the student, because the student then gets a feedback form about things that they did during their interview or things that they have on their application that might raise a red flag to an admissions committee. You have to keep in mind that those health professional programs always interview more students than they end up accepting. So we want you going into that interview really ready to knock your socks off. From that interview preparation program, I also write committee letters of recommendation. So a committee letter of recommendation is sent to whatever schools you apply to, dental schools, medical schools, PA, PT, to help support your application to that program. The committee letter of recommendation does not focus on your academics at all. They can look at your transcripts, they can look at your faculty letters, and they can see what kind of student you are academically. The committee letters of recommendation focus on other aspects and qualities that are going to make you a great student and a great healthcare provider in the future. Personal statements, we provide assistance with personal statements. Those are those statements that go in those applications that really demonstrate why you belong in that field. And out of the 6,000 applicants that medical school gets, you're supposed to state why you deserve one of those seats. Why you over the other 6,000 applicants. We have a person who works part-time in our office, Dr. Lewandowski. He's our physician in residence. So Dr. Lewandowski graduated from John Carroll. He went to Ohio State for medical school. He became a gynecological oncologist. He's a smart guy, really smart guy. He's at the point in his career, though, where he feels like he's done with medicine, but he says he's too young to retire. He has lots of energy, so he works here part-time. And he gives a lot of insight and guidance to students. He helps out with the interview process that I had talked about. In addition, he teaches a course about preparing yourself for a career in healthcare. So he's been a wonderful addition to the pre-health office. Where do our students end up going? All sorts of places, all sorts of programs. So lots of doctors and dentists and PAs and PTs. A number of our students go on to anesthetist programs, medical technology, graduate research, as you've heard before, all sorts of different areas. So I will be at the academic fair this afternoon. So you can ask additional questions. We have a few minutes now. I also wanted to give some time to our students so that they can stand up and introduce themselves. And they're going to tell you just a little bit about their experience here at John Carroll.
Hi, so as Dr. Lee said, my name is Hannah Todd. I'm a senior, so 6 more weeks for me, which is insane. I am a cell molecular biology major, so I'm one of the 10, the few, the proud, you know. I'll be attending Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine, which is one of those schools that was up there for medical school. I start July 25th, it's coming up. I guess in my time at John Carroll, I think what I've really appreciated has been just getting involved. I'm an RA. I know I saw a few of you getting building tours this morning. I'm a part of the Youth-Based Scholars Program. I was president of the Pre-Health Club. I've done research at the Cleveland Clinic. I've done research back in Pittsburgh, back at home. So I think I just value the amount of involvement and the relationships that I've built, like Dr. Martin and Dr. Lee were alluding to. I mean, like, we're going to be in contact for years to come. So I think that's what I really appreciate about John Carroll.
So I'm Ryan. I'm also a cell and molecular major. I'm a junior, so I'm applying to medical school next year. So I'm taking the MCAT at the end of the month. So hopefully that goes well. Which that's one thing I think John Carroll is really good at, preparing you for the MCAT. And actually my biochemistry professor, one of the things he always tells us is that if you go to John Carroll, you don't need to pay for all those expensive MCAT prep courses because you're just so prepared from what you get here at John Carroll. And I think at John Carroll, one thing that's so unique is the class sizes and how close you're able to get to your professors. Even in an intro biology class, the class size isn't really that much more than 20 students, versus if you were to go to Ohio State or Case Western, it'd probably be in an auditorium that's bigger than this. So I go into my first biology class, and the professor takes a picture of each of us and makes flashcards, so then the next time we walk in, he already knows all of our names. And that's just how close you get with your professors. I've gone out to dinner with some of my professors after seeing a speaker, and I've even driven one of my professors to Five Guys after organic chemistry lab, so he could buy me and a couple other TAs burgers. So then, just at John Carroll, just the opportunities that you get between research. I know you've done research at the Cleveland Clinic, and then I was able to do that too. And just because of the classes you take, you can build your resume and get those opportunities. So I think it's definitely worth your while.
Hi, I'm Vin. I'm a biology major. I'm a public health minor and art history minor. The best decision I made here was taking up the public health minor because I love looking at problems, from very complex problems, I guess, from economic standpoint, political science standpoint, science standpoint, sociology. It's very complex social justice issues out there, and I really like looking at them, and I don't know. I can't come up with solutions since they're so complex. That's impossible. Which is why I guess you need a lot of minds to work towards it. The people who think differently. So for me, that was my best decision. I also do research with a professor here, Dr. Shield. I do microdissections. On there, he was listed as a anatomist or morphology professor, and developmental evolution. So the stuff that I'm doing with him will go towards a publication eventually. ITA, also organic chemistry too. And there's a lot of opportunities here to get involved and to really come to appreciate science and many other fields too, which I hope you do take the opportunity to. So, thank you.
Well, if you have any questions you have.
Do any of the students have trouble getting classes that they need on their journey? I know you
Yeah.
mentioned some of the class sizes are small, so is it harder to get those, or is it just that that's the interest level?
No, it's not hard to get them because, we know how many students are coming through. As the chair of the department, I work very hard to make sure that all the students get the classes they need at the right time. Now, one thing they might say is, I need genetics, and what I know is, you want genetics, but it's okay if you take it next semester. So I know they need a biology class, but they may get ecology instead of genetics, but they'll get it in plenty of time for what they need as a prereq for later on. We have class sizes, they said 30 or so, but if you're number 32, great. If you're number 32, it's not, or 33, it's not see you next year in that class. We work to get all the students in to take the classes when they need them to progress. We have tremendous four-year graduation rates. Those are not issues. Students will get the things they need at the right time.
So you guys work real closely with the students to keep them on track and make sure that they'll be done in 4 years,
Yeah.
if that's
All-
their path?
All of our advising here is done by faculty members. So all of us are involved directly with students, doing the advising, making sure they're on track the whole time. We're not shipping them off somewhere else to another office to do that. They're working directly with us.
And that happens before they even start, so summer orientation, that happens. They have a faculty member as an advisor, and then they have somebody on campus. All 4 years, it might change. Once they declare, they go into the department if they're not already there. So we work very hard to make sure that they.
In fact, students have to meet with their advisor before they're allowed to register. So we can't have a student that just kind of makes their own decisions and then goes off and registers. They have to meet with their advisor, then their advisor releases them for registration once they've come up with a plan that is what they need for that semester. Yeah.
Thank you, Mom.
Yes?
Is there any learning center or tutoring service that students can utilize just in case they are behind on the schedule and the intake of the physical exam?
So in chemistry, our student organization of chemistry students offers tutoring in general and organic chemistry, but there's a bigger, what's called a learning commons, that's part of the library. So if you take a tour on campus, if you go through the library, lower level there's a learning commons where they have various tutoring resources across various areas of campus and other kinds of support systems there for students. So.
How about biology?
So Ryan is one of our tutors, so if you want to, come to John Carroll next year, you can hang out with Ryan for a couple hours each week. I'll pay him, and you get to talk about science with him. But on top of that, it's, all faculty are required contractually to have at least 6 hours a week of office hours. And so students need to come see us as well to ask the questions, get them answered. We all have PhDs or in some cases MD degrees in the field. We understand it. We teach the classes. We know that they're not going to be able to leave the office without that light coming on. We know that they understand it now in a fundamentally different way than when they came in. Sometimes students are, they're intimidated by people like me and Mark apparently. I don't know, it's the beard. But Ryan doesn't have a beard, so they'll go talk to Ryan.
Well,
Go ahead. Sorry, I should say something really quick too. Even in the faculty is so committed to furthering your education, and in addition to office hours, last week we were, just kidding, but we were working on an assignment in molecular genetics, so it's one of the very last classes we have to take as a cell molecular biology major, and there were a number of us struggling on this assignment that we had to do, and so we actually, our professor, Dr. Lismore, who will be out there later, he gives us his home phone number, and so we were able to call him, and he actually came in on a Sunday, last Sunday, and sat with us for hours going through this assignment. So they're really committed to furthering your education and making sure you understand.
other questions? Yeah.
Do you have to declare a major in your first year?
No, you don't. So many students don't declare a major until their fourth semester. They tend to finish. In biology, you finish 3 classes, have a certain grade point average before you declare. But students push the major, especially in the sciences, from the very beginning. They just, they may, if they're exploring between biology and chemistry, that curriculum is very much the same for the first 3 semesters. So once they find the passion for one or the other, they can choose that and not have fallen behind.
Are students required to have a minor or a
No.
No, there's no requirement for it, but it's certainly something I know I, as an advisor, often encourage students to at least explore those things, because sometimes you don't even realize that this minor over here really complements what it is you're interested in, or it really complements what your career goal is. And so it's something we often try to get students to consider, but there's no requirement outside of the honors program. The honors program does have some requirements for additional competencies beyond a major.
How quickly can the kids get involved with the internships or the research and things like that?
We'll ask the experts here. When did you start doing research, Hannah?
Well, after my freshman year, I got an opportunity in Pittsburgh to do a clinical research internship. So as long as you have the experience and the professionalism, to communicate, it's really important. And then at the Cleveland Clinic, I started working last summer. So some of the upper level things, like to have you see, like, you need upper level science, like lab courses in order to be like confident. But I mean, as soon as you can, and as soon as somebody's willing to take you, go for it.
Ryan?
Yeah, I went to a professor halfway through freshman year, and I started in her lab towards the end of the year. So I started as the end of my freshman year, and I'm still in that same lab. And then as a sophomore, I did the Cleveland Clinic internship. So you can, if you are hardworking and you make the attempt, you can start pretty early.
And Vin?
I started second semester sophomore year, and then after that, for internships, I applied for summers too.
Any other questions you might have? Yeah.
More of a statement, someone who's been there, done that. I'm sure there's other professionals in here that have experienced the same. Went through pharmacy school in a partly different state, so Washington. Very good program. And what I like is that you're stressing the shadowing and the internship and the other. These kids, well, I was an older student, these kids literally went all the way through pharmacy school. They're into their last year. They never did one internship the whole time. Boy, they were proud of their 4.0. And they got out and took a peek into the real world when they had to start going through their externships, and they said, this isn't what I want to do. As a
Right.
parent, I would stay with
I have a pre-farm student who works with me in my research lab, and he's a farm tech in the summer and and during the weekends as well. So he gets some experience before he actually dives into.
So glad that you stressed that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's absolutely critical that they get those experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How might like a full semester of studying abroad fit into the biochemistry pre-health schedule, if it does at all? I know you have immersion opportunities probably.
It will. So there's kind of two different flavors. One is we have a program with a university in Ireland, in Galway, and so they have strong sciences there. They can take sciences while they're overseas. One scenario. Different scenarios is maybe they're going to go to Rome. I tell my students, don't take genetics in Rome. It's the same as genetics anywhere. So instead, take all Roman whatever, right? So what they do is maybe they take Physics 1 in the summer, they study abroad, they come back, they take Physics 2. So it's the year-long classes that are kind of the problem. But if you plan it right, and the advisors know, we know how to make it work. There are some bad semesters, probably because of trying to interview for medical school, professional school. So senior year is not the best time to do that. But if you do a junior or sophomore year, we can work around that, no problem.
I have a lot of students that do study abroad opportunities. I think they're fabulous to do as an undergraduate. A lot of my students choose to do, instead of spending a full semester abroad, they'll choose to do some shorter study abroad experiences. So for example, we're partnering with Regent's University in London, where students can take either a 3-week course or a 6-week course over the summer for credit at John Carroll in either bioethics or healthcare policy. So a lot of students will do, a shorter type of experience over the summer, and then they'll combine that with maybe the medical immersion trip and then one other trip. And so through those sort of variety of experiences, they really get that good study abroad and different culture type of opportunity.
So she mentioned the immersion trips. There's a lot of immersion trips outside of the sciences as well.
Absolutely.
John Carroll offers lots of both domestic and international immersion experiences. So there's a whole variety of ways students can get that experience of study abroad or that experience of experiencing the outside world in anywhere from 2 weeks to a whole semester. So.
fifth year? No.
No, there is a prep course that's offered on campus through Kaplan. Some students take that course, other students choose not to. But there is a course offered on campus, but it's not a fifth year. We do have a post-baccalaureate program. Maybe that's what you're thinking about. I do run a pre-medical post-baccalaureate program as well. That is designed for students who either don't have all of their prereqs or didn't do well in a couple of their prereqs, and so they come into that post-baccalaureate program to prepare for medical school or dental school.
We do also have a fifth-year MBA program as well. So students in one of the sciences, you can get your major in the sciences, and in a fifth year, get your MBA. And so that's another option for students.
There's somebody in here.
Do you ever have any athletes come through your programs?
Yeah, absolutely. Like every fullback for 12 years. They're all in my genetics classes. There's all these little bowling ball guys. Every sport knows that what happens here is academics one, right? And then sports are number two. And so we have very strong students that are coming through and playing golf. We're on the soccer team, swim team. I've seen a lot, volleyball and softball. Softball coach is my next door neighbor. We talk about, athletics and academics all the time.
From my own experience, I was an alum of John Carroll, and it was a concern I had going into the sciences, should I continue athletics or not. It was probably the best decision I made. I ran cross country, I ran track, so I did cross country in the fall, indoor track in the winter, and then in the spring did outdoor track. And it fit, but more importantly, it helped me to learn better how to manage my time. I found that I had much better time management skills than some of my friends who were not involved in sports or other extracurricular activities.
You're good.
So what exactly is an immersion?
Yeah, so it might be a 5 to 10-day trip to someplace. So I've led an immersion experience to Chicago where we studied homelessness. We did some service projects, and we talked with people in had various roles of working with the homeless population in Chicago. So maybe something like that.
So is it for credit or is it more an experience?
Sometimes there's a credit on the front end. Maybe if you go to Honduras, you'll take a class about Honduran history and things like this. But those immersion experiences tend not to carry credit. If they do, it's like one credit type of thing. Yeah.
So immersion would not be included with the tuition you already paid, it would be like an additional cost if it's something you want to participate in?
Yeah, they're generally some kind of additional cost. In some cases, they'll have some funding available to help offset some of the costs of those things.
It's an opportunity to learn about other issues outside of John Carroll in less developed countries and poorer neighborhoods to understand the reality that's out there outside of perhaps living in the past life, things like that, to understand people, the greater diversity of people outside here. And not necessarily to solve the problems, but really to understand them. Because you only are given 5 to 10 days on these trips. So you learn as much as you can, come back, go out in person, and then you advocate. And you take it with you for the rest of your life to knowing what's out there and seeing whatever else you can do to help later on.
So I know people are probably starting to get a little bit hungry. So before everybody leaves, just want to let you know, the three of us are going to stick around here for a few more minutes. We're happy to address questions individually or small groups. I'm sure the students would be willing to talk with folks. I also encourage you to take those specialized tours of the labs. A number of biology faculty will be there, some chemistry faculty, and a number of our really good